Hello subscribers, today we're going to be talking about pension transfer forms. This is a question we get asked about a lot, so here we go. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Dominic James Murray. I'm CEO and independent financial advisor here at Cameron James. I've been in the pension transfer industry for over 10 years, and it's pretty much all I did since I left university. So first of all, I would like to caveat here that we're talking about UK pension transfer forms. We are not talking about other countries and other nationality schemes. Now, the reason for this, it's rather ironic with what's happened with Brexit, but the EU implemented legislation about pension freedom rules in Europe. Now, what this meant is that the UK government signed up to this, as did other pension companies such as Holland was one of the other countries, not to the same extent as the UK though. So if you're talking about pension schemes for any other scheme, unfortunately, this is not an area I can help you with. I'm only qualified and regulated to provide advice on UK pension transfers. So what is a pension transfer form? Now, obviously, it kind of it sounds what it is. It is a form for you to legally tell your UK scheme that you would like to transfer out. Why is this needed? Well, first of all, your UK scheme needs to have some type of due diligence to understand that you wish to transfer away. Typically by you signing a document to say, I understand the terms and conditions and I would like to transfer away. They also need to understand where are you transferring the scheme to. You can't simply just say, oh, you can't just put bank details down on there and please transfer it here, because you can't access your pension until the minimum age of 55 inside a solution you transfer it to. Typically in the UK, a final salary scheme has a normal retirement age of 60 or 65. The UK government broadened legislation to make it 55 for all private or defined contribution schemes. So number one, it's a big part of due diligence, but also it helps the UK scheme work out that you are sending your money to a regulated scheme that can accept UK pension transfers. This will either be an international SIPP, or for clients in Europe approaching the lifetime allowance of 1 million, a QROPS could also be a possible tax efficient solution for you as well. So they're the main reasons. How is it completed? Well, generally speaking, they're split into two categories. You have defined contribution on one hand and defined benefit on the other hand. A defined contribution scheme will likely be 2 to 10 pages long. Pretty simple, pretty basic, maybe 1 or 2 signatures. A defined benefit pension transfer form is far more complex. The reason it is far more complex is because the pension is far more complex. There's much more information and detail that your financial advisor needs to take out of that to put a report together for you. I have other videos covering final salary pension transfer, which you can click the link above if you want to understand those in more detail. So effectively, the forms act as your verification that you want to transfer your pensions out. Now, there's been an interesting turn of events over the past couple of years, a system called Origo. If you are transferring to an international SIPP, the majority of international SIPP providers now have a system called Origo. What this means is that you can sign a transfer authority form with the international SIPP provider, usually digitally via DocuSign, which makes it much more convenient for expats than having to sign the original form from your UK scheme. This also dramatically speeds up the process of doing the paperwork. Previously, 5 years ago, every time we had a pension transfer, we would DHL the paperwork to you wherever you are in the world. You would sign it, you would return it back to us, we would then countersign it, the new SIPP provider would countersign it, then it would go to your UK scheme. Yeah, a lot of hassle, not very environmentally friendly either in terms of global warming. So that's another point. It makes it very, very simple for you to complete in this day and age. When it comes to final salary transfer out paperwork, unfortunately, this is not possible. There is no Origo system for final salary schemes. This is because final salary schemes require more due diligence from your UK scheme. They will ask many questions about the provider you're sending it to. The reason for this is that the FCA is extremely hot on people transferring final salary pensions to any scheme which is not regulated to do so. So that's something which you need to be careful of. The 40-page document from your pension transfer form from your DB is going to be complicated. It generally needs to be completed by your financial advisor to ensure no mistakes are made. I know this very well because in my younger years, I possibly have made mistakes on forms before, and it takes a very long period of time. If you make a mistake, it might take an extra 5 or 10 days in terms of the transfer process. Your UK scheme will say, okay, we're reviewing the form. Oh, you've got a national insurance number, there's 1 digit missing. back to the front of the queue until you resubmit the paperwork. Obviously, very frustrating for your clients. Here at Cameron James, we do everything electronically now, which means there can't be any uncertainty. Is it an I, is it an L, whatever it is, everything is done electronically. So having the forms completed correctly will save you a lot of time and hassle. If something is done wrong, it will slow things down, but also it might raise flags of your UK scheme. They might say, hang on a minute, this person doesn't know this person's details, maybe it's a scam, maybe something's happening here. Then they might want to reach out to you as the client. You may well be busy doing your life, job, kids, family. You haven't got time to be calling a UK scheme, particularly if you're in the US with the time zone difference, not exactly ideal. So having the pension transfer form done correctly it is very, very important. So if we look onto the conflict with pension transfer forms, so to speak, people have to understand why they need it and how to complete it. So pension transfer forms can be collected by yourself directly, the client. You can call your scheme, you can email your scheme, and you can request the information. Here at Cameron James, whenever we go through an advice process, we will complete a fact find and risk profile with all clients. If they have a UK pension or pensions, we will also complete a letter of authority for each individual pension. This means that we have the legal ability to email, fax, or call your UK scheme to request for any further information. Why this is important is DC is very simple. They very rarely do they miss any important information. With DBs, yeah, they miss a lot of information. This scheme might be 5, 10, 15, 30, 10, 20 years old, whatever it is. Over the course of the years, that pension scheme would have been bought and sold by numerous trustees in the UK. Paperwork might have lost along the way, and the eventual paperwork they send you is not the full information. I can tell you now, when we're doing final salary pension transfers, this is the #1 factor, which normally means that people get close to missing their guaranteed CETV date on their pension transfer form. So at Cameron James, we always ensure that all paperwork is correctly collected. If you miss the CETV date on your pension transfer form for your final salary or DB pension, you will have to request a new one, or your financial advisor will have to request a new one. Doesn't sound like a big deal. It is. Firstly, it's going to cost you about £250 minimum, because the trustees, fairly rightfully so, say we're having to do all the calculations all over again. You only get one pension transfer form for free with your DB scheme per annum. Any more than that, you have to pay this additional fee. However, sometimes it takes them even longer to produce the second form than it did to produce the first form. Obviously, it doesn't really make sense, but this is just the way that the bureaucracy works inside UK schemes. For example, a couple of weeks ago, it took 2 weeks to get the client's initial CETV. It then took 5.5 weeks to get the second CETV. For 2 weeks, it was at sign-off stage with the trustees for them to approve for you to have a second pension transfer form. They advised us that it's not a statutory right for the client to have a second transfer out form. Obviously, I advised him in 10 years, I'd never seen a UK scheme which had denied it, which obviously they eventually sent the form through. But it's important to make sure if you have a pension transfer form which has an expiry date on it as a final salary scheme, you need to get working on that as soon as possible. This doesn't mean you rush and work with the first financial advisor you find, but certainly don't get the documentation, wait 6 weeks, and then go to an advisory firm, because it becomes a rush. Yes, we've done it. We've even had clients come to us with 2 to 3 weeks left on their pension transfer form, and we've managed to get it done for them, but it's a rush. It's stressful. It's stressful for us, the team, the report writers. It all comes down to the last minute, and can we schedule a call on this day? It gets a little bit messy. Normally, the only time that happens is when our clients have been working with other advisory firms first. They maybe go through a process of 4 to 6 weeks worth of advice. Perhaps at the last minute, they go through the terms and conditions, and it's not quite as transparent as they thought. There was commissions they were not sure about, there's charges they were not aware about. Some of the funds are maybe trail paying funds rather than clean share classes. Any of these things can happen, which then make the client lose their trust in that financial advisor. They'll then come to us, and yes, their education, it is a very far point. We don't have to do much education with them because they understand why they want to transfer it, but we do have to go back and start the process all over again, which can be costly. So always act on your pension transfer forms. And just to give you the information on the DC side, generally speaking, these will be valid for a period of up to 12 months. I've even had instances before where it was submitted 18 months later and they've just transferred the pension, because in the forms it will stipulate your transfer value will fluctuate based on market performance. So generally speaking, if it's worth 200,000 and you do it 12 months later, it might have gone up a little bit slightly. But again, best practice with DC schemes, if you're getting advice on a DB, do your DC and DB at the same time. It will also probably reduce the costs from your perspective of having your DB report written. You might even be able to get the DC included in the DB report, which will be more efficient for yourself. So in terms of pension transfer forms, I always say to my client, I'm not a mechanic. When I go to the garage, I give them my car to fix because I don't really understand what goes on underneath the engine. And it's the same with pension transfers. Unless you want to spend 10 years and do all the qualifications, which I have, you're never going to know the system as well as an expert, such as myself or Cameron James. So you're best to have everything done for you. Obviously, we complete all the forms digitally, as I already mentioned, but you still review everything. You review all the documentation to make sure that it's correct, and no one can do anything with your pension until you sign that form. So there's no chance of, if you leave it to someone else, something is going to happen to your pension or whatever it is. So I hope that's been valuable for you in terms of pension transfer forms. Remember, if you want to find out more videos like this, you can click subscribe below and you'll see more videos in this sort of area. And also, if you want to reach out to me individually to discuss your own pension transfer requirements, feel free to book into my diary via the calendar link below, and you can also use the WhatsApp if you wish to have a quick chat. I hope this has been valuable for you. I look forward to seeing you on more videos, and all the best with completing your pension transfer paperwork. Thank you very much. Goodbye.